For over half a century, capturing a professional photograph meant relying on a highly calibrated machine. Complex assemblies of springs, levers, and glass had to physically move in a fraction of a second. The defining feature of that machine is the mirror box. Inside a digital single-lens reflex camera, or DSLR, light enters the lens and hits an angled mirror. That mirror bounces the light up into a prism, which flips the image so you can see exactly what you're pointing at to the viewfinder. When you press the shutter, that mirror physically flips up and out of the way to expose the sensor. Mirrorless technology removes that entire physical mechanism. The light passes straight through the lens and continuously hits the digital image sensor. There is no mirror to flip and no prism to bounce the light. Marketing campaigns often imply this structural change results in inherently superior images. But a 24-megapixel sensor captures the exact same amount of light and the exact same resolution, regardless of whether a physical mirror sits in front of it. If your subject is poorly lit or your composition is cluttered, buying a newer camera body will result in the exact same bad photograph. The sensor only records what you put in front of it. The choice between these two platforms is rarely about raw image quality. You are deciding which operational workflow you want to invest in and how you want the camera to behave while you are shooting. You have to weigh two distinctly different design philosophies. You can optimize for a heavy reliance on digital, technological assistance, or you can optimize for mechanical endurance and raw optical feedback. Neither system is universally superior for every photographer. Finding the right tool requires matching the specific constraints of the technology to the actual subjects you plan to shoot. The DSLR's optical viewfinder provides a zero-latency, true light connection to your subject. You are looking through a periscope directly at the actual photons entering the lens. That pure optical connection means the camera does not compensate for your exposure settings. If you dial in a fast shutter speed in a dark room, your optical viewfinder will still show a bright room, requiring you to do the mental math to realize your final image will be severely underexposed. A mirrorless camera replaces the glass prism with an electronic viewfinder. You are looking at a miniature, high-resolution digital screen that relays a live video feed directly from the main image sensor. This screen provides a real-time preview of your final photograph. You can see your exact exposure, monitor your white balance, and even turn on warning overlays that flash when your highlights are blown out, all before you press the shutter. Powering that digital screen continuously comes at a high cost to battery life. And if you are tracking fast-moving subjects, older or entry-level electronic viewfinders can introduce microstutters or screen lag, disconnecting you slightly from the live action. The DSLR gives you an unfiltered view of reality, while the mirrorless system acts as a digital safety net, constantly verifying your exposure calculations. To calculate autofocus, DSLRs redirect a small portion of the incoming light to a separate, dedicated focusing chip. This system is exceptionally fast, but those focus points are physically restricted to the very center of the camera's field of view. Because you cannot track subjects at the edges of the frame, you often have to lock focus on a subject in the center, hold the shutter half down, and physically move the camera to recompose the shot. Furthermore, because the focusing chip and the image sensor are two separate pieces of hardware, mechanical miscalibration can cause the lens to slightly misfocus. This animated diagram shows how mirrorless cameras approach focus differently. Instead of a separate chip, they use the main image sensor itself to calculate focus. As you can see on the right side of the comparison, this hybrid autofocus system allows the focus points to cover 90% or more of the entire frame. Reading that focus data directly from the main sensor enables advanced artificial intelligence tracking. The camera can automatically identify human and animal faces, find the eye, and keep it perfectly sharp even as the subject moves to the extreme outer edges of your composition. This sensor tracking does have a specific blind spot. If you are shooting through heavy brush or a chain-link fence, the mirrorless system can easily lock on to the high-contrast obstacles in the foreground, struggling to find the subject behind them, a situation where dedicated DSLR chips often excel. Beyond focus, reading directly from the sensor allows mirrorless cameras to operate completely silently. By disabling the mechanical shutter curtains, the camera simply scans the light hitting the sensor electronically, capturing an image with zero physical movement and zero noise. Reading that data takes a fraction of a second. If an object moves significantly during that electronic scan, you get an artifact known as rolling shutter. A straight golf club or a helicopter blade will appear warped and leaning across the frame. Assuming you take the time to learn and configure their highly complex tracking menus, mirrorless autofocus and electronic shutters will drastically increase your success rate for capturing perfectly timed action. Removing the physical mirror assembly dramatically changes camera design. This technical profile compares a DSLR and a mirrorless body side by side. Notice the massive reduction in flange focal distance, the gap between the lens mount and the sensor plane. The mirrorless body is significantly thinner and lighter. Shrinking the camera body removes physical space for the battery. A photographer moving from a DSLR to a mirrorless system can expect to lose up to 50% of their operating battery life per charge. That missing space between the lens and the sensor creates a unique advantage. You can attach an adapter that perfectly mimics the depth of a DSLR mirror box, allowing you to mount older DSLR lenses from almost any brand onto a new mirrorless body. The catch is that attaching a large, heavy piece of DSLR glass to a physical metal adapter entirely negates the weight savings of the smaller mirrorless body. The resulting setup is often heavier and much more front-heavy on a native camera. Purchasing native, lightweight mirrorless lenses requires a heavy premium. Meanwhile, because the industry is transitioning, the used market is currently flooded with high-quality, professional-grade DSLR lenses available at a fraction of their original retail cost. A mirrorless system will shave pounds off your camera bag, provided you buy native lenses. But adopting a used DSLR system will keep a massive amount of capital in your wallet. Mirrorless technology provides automated safeguards that raise your baseline for technical perfection. DSLRs offer rugged reliability and severely lower the financial barrier to owning professional-grade optics. To choose your platform, we have to map these trade-offs to your exact workflow. This decision tree flowchart breaks down the optimal system based on primary use cases: budget and learning, studio and landscape, action and wedding, or video. If you are a beginner or on a strict budget, a used DSLR is the optimal starting point. The optical viewfinder forces you to learn manual exposure calculation, building better foundational skills, and gives you access to a massive library of cheap, excellent lenses. If you shoot studio portraits or static landscapes, stick with a DSLR. When you control the lighting and the subject isn't moving fast, you don't need rapid burst rates. Battery endurance and cost-effective lenses matter far more. For wedding and event photographers, mirrorless is required equipment. The ability to shoot completely silently prevents you from ruining intimate, quiet moments with the mechanical clack of a shutter. Sports and wildlife shooters will see massive returns from a mirrorless system. The combination of full-frame eye tracking and extreme burst rates will secure split-second action shots that a center-focused DSLR would simply miss. Finally, for videographers and hybrid shooters, mirrorless is mandatory. Features like in-body image stabilization and continuous video focus tracking simply do not exist on older, traditional DSLRs. Ignore the marketing campaigns pushing the newest sensors. Look at your own workflow. Identify whether you are limited by your budget, your tracking speed, or your battery life, and buy the system that solves your specific operational bottleneck.